My fellow Americans, welcome to The Celluloid President, the podcast about American presidents on film. Today we're discussing Robert Altman's Nashville, the 1975 country music epic. I'm Gary Holmes, and joining me today via Zoom from California is Jim Robinson. Jim, a few days ago we celebrated President's Day, which is the most important day on the celluloid president calendar. What did you do to celebrate?
Well, I don't want to be a party pooper, Gary, but I don't like celebrating what I call Indigenous President's Day. I liked it when we celebrated presidents on their actual birthdays, Lincoln on February 12th, Washington on February 22nd, and Richard Nixon on January 9th.
Okay.
How did you celebrate? You buy a mattress?
I did something really corny. I watched a video of the Disneyland stage show, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, the
Oh,
one with the animatronic Lincoln. This is the same show I remember when we visited the World's Fair in 1965 and then Disneyland's Hall of Presidents in 1970. I'm not sure how they keep that robot going all these years, but I still get a lump in my throat listening to Lincoln's words spoken while the Battle Hymn of the Republic played. So I felt very patriotic that day.
that's pretty cool. You could have done it on February 12th.
I could have. Well, you should see this. You should see this robotic Lincoln. He's like a jerky, very ancient technology, but I guess people go for the nostalgia factor. I mean, that's the way why I listened.
That's cool.
All right. So this is our second movie in a row discussing the cinematic year of 1975, which Netflix dubbed the best year in cinematic history. Last month, we reviewed Shampoo, which took place on the night that Richard Nixon was elected president. Nashville is set during the late lead up to the 1976 presidential election. To me, this movie culminates a streak of really great but cynical and depressing movies that started with Easy Rider in 1969. I think moviegoers were tired out of being depressed after Nashville and shifted to popcorn movies like Jaws, Rocky, Star Wars. We were in college at the time. Do you remember anything about these years, both in film and in real life?
Well, I have to say, movies weren't a particularly big deal. It's easy to forget. In fact, it's amazing to think about. It wasn't that easy to see a movie in
Mm.
those days. You didn't pop a DVD into the player, open up a streaming app. You actually had to go. And, Middlebury, where we went to college and in my hometown, they didn't even have multi-screen theaters yet. So I have to say, I didn't do a lot of new release movie viewing in those days. Remember when some big movie would be on TV for the first time,
Oh
and
yeah.
there was all sorts of hype, and they always got like top 10 ratings. I mean, that's what it was like to watch movies in those days, and I just didn't do that much of it.
Yeah, Saturday night at the movies, big deal. I mean, it was an actual
Yeah.
big deal. They would show the movie for the first time. I was just the opposite. Um, I remember the 70s movie scene very vividly. All my high school friends and I were real movie buffs, and it seemed that movies had become the dominant high culture of the era. We read Pauline Kael in The New Yorker and talked about the directors and the stars. A new movie for us was a big event. I didn't really mind that the movies were depressing because I was at a stage in life where the world seemed tragic and seeing that cynicism and despair on the screen seemed cathartic. So yeah, it's a very nostalgic for that period because it was a really big deal for us that when we went to the movies.
Yeah, well, as for those issues that depressed you joyfully, in this period of time, yeah, the issues of the day weighed heavily on me and you because we spent a lot of this period as
Right.
friends together. Watergate, the collapse of Cambodia and Vietnam, the debacle that was unfolding in the Republican Party. And in fact, at one point after the summer of 74, I was so disillusioned with it all that for a couple of years I just quit politics and turned my focus to American literature and vowed that I would become a literature professor once I left college. That didn't last long.
Yeah, I remember all that. Well, those were bad years. Yes. They were worse. Those years were worse than we're going through now, which people tend to forget. But in addition to what you've already mentioned, there was the gas shortage, waiting in line to get gas and shivering in your house because you couldn't have enough heating oil. So it's not surprising that the movies, and of course, you're right, the Vietnam War, because of the Vietnam War, and this was just 1975, it's just 7 years after the assassinations of 68.
Right.
So, yeah, we had a lot to be depressed about.
And in terms of benchmarking this movie, we do have to point out that it was filmed in the summer of 74,
Right.
even though it was released in 75.
Yeah.
So as we talk about, what the movie issues that the movie is hinting at or directly or indirectly dealing with, we just need to keep that in mind. It was being filmed while the president of the United States was resigning.
Yeah. Since we've spent so much time talking about 70s movies, I thought, well, I think you thought it was your idea. Let's quickly run through our top 10 movies of the decade. Why don't you go first?
Okay, my disclaimer is that these are the movies that are sort of guilty pleasure enjoyment for me.
Okay.
I didn't see a lot of the movies that we're all supposed to laud.
Okay.
I'd
All right.
never seen Nashville before until a couple of days ago. Here we go in no particular order and
Okay.
with no discussion.
Okay.
Patton, Dirty Harry, Godfather 1, Godfather 2, and rest in peace, Robert Duvall, by the way, who
God
just
bless
passed
his
away.
soul. Yeah.
Yeah. American Graffiti, Harold and Maude, and rest in peace, Bud Cort, who died last week, who played Harold in
Did
that
not see
movie.
that obit. Did
Yeah,
not see that.
the quirky actor did
Okay.
a great job in that movie. Death Wish, The Candidate, and I finish out my 10 with Diamonds Are Forever and Man with a Golden Gun, the two
Okay.
James Bond films. I have a feeling your list is a little different.
We have one that overlaps. I am going to list mine. I'm not going to list them in chronological order or from favorite to least, I'm going to list them in order of most depressing to least depressing. Okay. Okay. Number one, Chinatown. LA is completely corrupt, and Faye Dunaway is killed trying to escape from her father, with whom she incestuously conceived a daughter. And worse, the daughter, with whom she's trying to escape, will now become the ward of her evil father. Two, Nashville. Cynical, bleak, and we will discuss more about that later. Three, The Last Picture Show. Three friends growing up in a dying town in Texas where no one is happy. Four, Cabaret. In Weimar, Germany, Liza Minnelli is a cabaret singer who falls in love with a gay guy, even as the Nazis take over Germany. Five, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Father leaves his wife and kids to explore the universe with aliens. Six, Manhattan. Woody Allen and other New Yorkers selfishly ruining relationships and dating 17-year-old girls. Seven, American Graffiti, where we overlap.
Mhm.
Four, High School Friends on their last night before going to college. Eight, Young Frankenstein, hilarious Mel Brooks spoof. Nine, Breaking Away, five friends, emotionally adrift after high school, but at least one seems to grow up and have a future. 10, Star Wars. Teenage boy who never even went to high school saves the world after his two surrogate fathers are killed by his real father.
Hmm. Well, at least I've seen 6 out of your 10 movies. I've never seen Cabaret, never seen Close Encounters, never seen Young Frankenstein, never seen Breaking Away.
Okay. Well,
I got something to look forward to.
those are four movies you really should see. And
Okay.
those 10 movies are better than anything that's come out in the last 10 years,
Yeah,
except for
it really,
Barbie.
it really was the great period of
Yeah.
movie making, and it had it all. You had these artistic, cinematic works of, grandeur. You had art house movies, and you had the guilty pleasure movies
Yeah.
that brought in the audiences like me, like
Yeah.
Death Wish.
All right. Well, as previously noted, today's movie is based on the country music business. You and I have never listened to country music together or even talked about it. And now's the time to reveal your deep, dark secret. Do you like country music?
I used to like it a lot, and I liked it a lot during the period that this movie was made. I don't dislike it now, but I just haven't kept up with much of any popular music these days. I was particularly like Loretta Lynn. I saw her in concert several times. when I taught a course in American autobiography at the University of Maryland in 78. I included her autobiography on my syllabus, and that was before the movie came out. And I also like Dolly Parton, Patsy Cline, Hank Williams Jr., Johnny Cash, and Kenny Rogers. How about yourself?
We kind of have a similar narrative. I first got interested in country music while watching this movie, as a matter of fact, which is ironic because the country music establishment claims that Nashville has nothing to do with real country music. And it was movies that continued to fuel my interest, especially Sweet Dreams, the Patsy Cline biopic, A Coal Miner's Daughter, the Loretta Lynn biopic, and Urban Cowboy, the John Travolta movie. So throughout the 80s and 90s, I would buy a country music album about once every other year. But the real turning point took place about 20 years ago when our family took a trip out west to visit a lot of national parks. And since we were driving at least 1,000 miles during those 2 weeks, we spent a whole lot of time in the car listening to country music radio stations. And we developed a real affection for Kenny Chesney, Brooks and Dunn, Toby Keith, Taylor Swift, Cheyenne Twain, George Strait, and all their hit songs.
Hmm.
But I have to admit, like you, my interest in country music has waned because there's no country music station here in Connecticut, and I just never think of streaming it. And so it's been hard to keep up,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry about that because those country music songs from 20 years ago were fantastic. I mean, we really loved them.
Well, here's the thing about country music, and maybe a lot of people who don't think they like it really do. And that is there's so much crossover
Yeah.
between country music and all the other genres of popular music. Country music was one of the building blocks of rock and roll,
Uh-huh.
along with R&B and traditional pop music. And if you think about the major artists of this period of the 70s, John Denver, Neil Young, the Eagles, the band, James Taylor, Linda Ronstadt. Think about one of the biggest albums of the decade, George Harrison's All Things Must Pass. That's like one third country in that album. So I think there was a lot of blending and a lot of influence of country styles in other forms of music. And maybe people who say they don't like it might give it a second thought when they think about what they do like.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more people listening to country music now than used to. I mean, I think we grew up with a prejudice against it because of shows like Hee Haw,
Yeah.
which made it look corny beyond all belief. But I mean, there's no one more popular than Dolly Parton, for example.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
despite what I said about the crossover, I think this film does focus on a pure form
yeah.
of country, pure in the sense of being more overtly patriotic than rock or folk, more religious, more geared to the good old boys and gals of the working class, as opposed to the college set or the coastal elites, and more cornpone.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too about country that I've always appreciated is that it really covers the gamut of human emotions and human relationships. Pop music is mostly about love, romantic love between, a man and a woman, usually, almost always. But country music is about relationships with your parents, with your kids, with your friends, with your
About
country,
drinking too
drinking, yes,
much.
and drink and the bottle, yes.
Yeah,
All right. Well, we'll talk some more about that later while we talk about the movie. But before we get to it, it's possible that people have not seen this movie. So I'm going to just do a quick summary.
good
Yeah.
luck.
Good luck. Yes, I was going to say, well, Nashville is almost impossible to summarize because it has 24 named featured players plus another dozen or so supporting actors representing everyone in the country music business from major stars and desperate wannabes, from innocents to cynical exploiters to fans and outsiders who are trying to understand what this strange insular culture is all about. All these characters circle around each other with their own vivid stories. But the spine of the movie concerns an unseen third party presidential candidate for the 1976 election who's coming to Nashville to stage a rally and the machinations that are involved in trying to get various music acts to appear at the rally. Eventually, all the characters converge at the Parthenon in Centennial Park, As the concert goes on, you have a sense of dread that something terrible is going to happen. And sure enough, an assassin is present. But instead of shooting the presidential candidate, the assassin shoots one of the performers. In the chaos that follows, the mic ends up in the hands of one of the desperate wannabes, and she starts singing "It Don't Worry Me," which distracts the crowd, and we are left with a sense of whether anything really matters at all.
Very good, considering.
Considering, I mean, you can't really even begin to get into the individual plots of the
Yeah,
24
yeah.
characters because it would be a 10-minute summary. All right. I'm just going to say that Nashville had a budget of $2 million, which means that Robert Altman, the director, probably got the actors to work for practically nothing. And it had a box office of 10 million. So it was a financial success. Of course, this pales next to the top grossing movie of the year, which was Jaws, with a gross of over $250 million, followed by One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Shampoo, which we talked about last time, Dog Day Afternoon, and The Return of the Pink Panther. It was a huge critical hit. I remember at the time that it was hailed as a masterpiece. The New Yorker's Pauline Kael was practically orgasmatic and described it as the funniest epic vision of America ever to reach the screen. Gene Siskel, Robert Ebert, and Leonard Maltin gave the film five-star reviews and called it the best film of 1975. I mean, it had 5 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Supporting Actress for both Ronnie Blakely and Lily Tomlin, and it won the Best Original Song for David Carradine's track "I'm Easy."
Hmm.
So very highly regarded, and it's been one of my top, all-time top favorite movies for a long time since it came out. I thought very sophisticated, artistic movie. I loved it at the time. I kind of still do. And you've never seen it before.
I never seen it until 3 days ago,
Okay.
and I'm glad I did.
Okay. So let's talk about what you liked.
Well, we've already sort of discussed it. I like the music, nearly all of it, even the corny stuff like Havis Hamilton's patriotic song that opened the movie, even the songs that the filmmakers were probably making fun of. I just enjoyed it. It was good to have those musical interludes throughout the film because it is a long film.
I like the movie too. I like the music too. I also like being thrown into an immersive world where I have to figure out what's going on. And it's not impossibly opaque, even though it's got 24 characters, because they're all drawn so distinctively. I always like a movie where I have to work at it, but not too hard. I get the same endorphin buzz that I get solving a puzzle. So, even though they were shifting constantly from scene to scene and character to character, it wasn't that hard to follow.
Yeah, I liked it too because of the inventiveness of the concept, following all these characters around, getting to know them, or at least just a taste,
Yeah,
and never knowing which one would appear on the screen next, which was very entertaining and it kept my interest. The real star of this movie has to be the film editor or
right.
editors.
Yeah.
And I'm sure maybe Altman really took over a lion's share of that work, but just to piece it all together is a fantastic achievement.
I know. Amazing. I also like that the movie, as cynical as it is, does not dwell on racism, which is an easy target
Yes.
for a Southern
Yeah.
movie. There is a black singer, probably based on Charlie Pride, who fits right in and socializes with everyone. Lily Tomlin sings in a black choir, and no one except the outsiders think it's weird. And the best friend of the densest character, Sulene, is black. The most racist character is not from Nashville. She's the BBC reporter Opal, who, when she sees Lily Tomlin singing with the Black Choir, asks if she's a missionary. And
Yeah. She and the a black character who throws racial epithets, including the N-word,
right,
at the Charlie Pride character. They
right.
were really so the only two ones acting racist, we don't really know,
Oh, yeah,
where it was a black character and a Brit. And it's just funny because the Brits always love to lecture Americans about race.
obviously this is a racially divided city because when they go to the smoker where when they were trying to raise money, everyone's white, and there's no, they're not trying to say this is any kind of racial Pollyanna, but everyone they get along.
Yeah, there seemed to be an equilibrium about it. And I had that down too as a like, but I expanded it a little bit beyond that. I liked that it wasn't mean-spirited. It wasn't, maybe you'll disagree. Maybe the filmmakers intended it to be something where they held a mirror up to average Americans and wanted us to recoil in condemnation. But I didn't find it overtly moralistic. It wasn't a hate fest. Um, it was kind of a let's laugh at ourselves, let's shake our head sheepishly at some of our absurdities, our weaknesses, our excesses, the foibles of our national personality. There were really only two outright villains that I could find in this movie. One was obviously the assassin,
Right,
and the other was the political operative
right,
who did what you might think the filmmakers would have done, which is come to Nashville and totally look down on everybody.
right.
So I found that redeeming about this film.
Yep. No, I agree with that. It is, I mean, everyone is, they're pretty well rounded. They've got, as you said, foibles. They've got good things going for them and bad things. Some of them are pathetic, and some of them are, and they act bad because they're pathetic.
If they're
Uh,
not particularly likable, they're not particularly hateable.
right.
That's how I reacted to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And then
Uh,
I just have to say, it the movie is just so damn funny and perceptive.
yeah.
I mean, there is social commentary, humor, irony, and reality packed into almost every vignette, in
Right.
almost every set. I mean,
Yeah.
it really was very, very well done in that regard.
It is a very funny movie. Yeah. In an organic way. I mean, no one's cracking jokes or anything. They're
Right.
just being honest. There was one other thing that I thought I give them credit for not being cynical about, and it would have been very so easy to have the Vietnam veteran be the assassin
Yes.
because of PTSD or something,
Which
and
they were hinting at.
they were certainly hinting at it, but they didn't go there. And then the Vietnam the soldier was completely normal, nothing the matter with him,
Right.
except that he was a big fan of the Ronnie Blakely character.
And he was sort of a celebrity stalker.
Well, yeah, yeah.
But I agree with
As
it.
were most of the people in the movie.
Right. I agree with you.
All right. Anything else you want to highlight?
None likes,
All right. What about dislike?
not strictly speaking a dislike, but I have a similar problem that I had with Shampoo. And that is I'm struggling with the device of bringing most of the characters together at the end at a political rally. And and then of course the shooting itself. I got a feeling of this being grafted on. Hardly any of the characters showed any interest in politics. And, I know the rally moved the plot along at various points, people talking about who would appear, who would perform. But it also seemed like, again, sort of grafted on to what was basically a slice of life movie about Nashville and about middle America. So, and the ending with the shooting, not of the politician, which would have been so easy to do
Yeah.
because the guy was standing right there in the front of the stage, but about some poor, vulnerable country movie star, a young woman in white. The denouement seemed kind of obtuse to me, but because it had echoes of the recent past in the 60s, and because it eerily forecast the future
Yeah.
with all these shootings of both political and pop culture figures, I still have to say the ending was effective. And I love the final scene and the final song.
Okay. Well, here's where we disagree again. I was okay with the assassination because it assassinations almost never make sense because what do you do? What are you trying to accomplish? I didn't like the very, very ending of the movie where the character played by Barbara Harris grabs the mic and sings "It Don't Worry Me." A major star has just been shot at a political rally, and even though it's a crime scene, the police don't even close it down. Instead, the crowd continues to enjoy themselves. And this is too cynical even for me, as is the song she's singing, which has the refrain, "You may say I ain't free, but it don't worry me." That's supposed to be an indictment of the vapidness of American consumers. But I think the opposite is true. It's not that people don't care about politics, but that they care too much. I mean, that's the problem in America right now. No one can chill out about the end of the republic by 10 minutes, and everyone's worried all the time about the end of democracy. So I just didn't like I liked the movie up until the last maybe 3 minutes. And I thought that's too
I
much.
love that because I loved it in a visceral way. If I thought about it like you did, maybe I'd agree. But I still got chills
Hmm.
as the whole audience was singing and everything. And they weren't going to let some maniac, ruin what became a moment of unity. And, you could compare that scene, delayed obviously, with the Charlie Kirk Memorial in the big football stadium a couple of weeks after his death. Same idea.
Yeah. All right. All
But I
right.
see your point. I see your point.
Well, when Charlie Kirk got shot, that was the end of the show. You know, didn't go
Right.
on.
But remember, there were
I
different
know. I know.
ways of law enforcement. Now you've got one drunken guy standing on his porch with a beer bottle and a knife, and they shut down 5 square blocks of the city. I mean,
Right.
so
Anything else you didn't like?
well, it was sort of I was frustrated by the inability to get too deeply into any of the characters.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the intention, that was the purpose. But still, I wanted to sink my teeth into some of the storylines a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I didn't want it to be longer.
Yeah. Yeah. So we never see Hal Philip Walker, the candidate who's running for president, but we do hear his voice, and he seems a little too dim-witted to be taken seriously. He says things like it's a problem that a car costs more than the cost of Columbus's exploration of America. I mean, what kind of a comparison is that? That's not the kind of comparison that a populist would make. I think they could have made him a little bit more serious than they do. I think he's a little bit of a joke.
Well, I have a different take on that. I was going to say it later, but you may remember I wrote a book on Ross Perot.
Yeah,
It was one of my books. It was just a compendium of his various
yeah,
comments.
yeah,
This guy in the movie speeches sound exactly like Ross Perot, exactly. And people took him kind of serious. I mean, you and I didn't, and but 19% of the voters did, and he probably swung the election in '92. But I thought it was prescient in that regard.
yeah. I mean, I might as well talk about this already. I mean, we talked about it being a prescient movie, and exactly. I mean, he prefigures Ross Perot.
And
He
Trump
also
to a degree, and Trump
and
to a degree.
and Trump, yeah.
Yeah,
Two guys that ran for office saying, "I'm a businessman, I can fix things." He also prefigures the assassination of John Lennon.
that's right.
Why would
That's
someone
right.
shoot John Lennon?
Yeah, no, I thought the politician was very interesting to me, not because he was deep or anything, but he wasn't so much presenting a populist take as we would view like a Huey Long, a genuine populist of the left or the right. It was more one of these guys that says, you know, everyone in both parties are idiots
Yeah,
and I can fix things. All we have to do is be practical about it. I don't have a big ideology. I don't have many fixed positions, but America is screwed up. And just let me get in there and I'll look under the hood of the car that's in the ditch, as Ross Perot always said, and we can fix things. And that appeals to a lot of Americans, that kind of pitch. And
right,
it appeals because most Americans have this delusion about themselves that they don't vote for the party, they vote for the man. Well, that's bull. Most Americans always vote for the party.
right. So, what's the movie trying to accomplish? We're sort of beginning to dance around this.
Yeah, I thought it was trying to use Nashville as a microcosm of America in order to expose, satirize, criticize the greed, the cravenness of politics, the hunger for fame, the ruthlessness of show business, and Americans' obsession with fame, sex, cars, celebrity, materialism, but not race, all during a time of crisis of confidence in the country. And it chose Nashville, but it could have chosen New York, DC, LA. Given that it was elite Hollywood choosing middle America as its target, there was a huge risk of insufferable arrogance and condescension. But as I said, I think the film mostly dodges that bullet by making most of the characters, you know, pathetic but not really hateable.
I pretty much agree with you. I think it's trying to be a commentary about the mindlessness and banality of American political culture. It's trying to show that politics and entertainment are intertwined. All the celebrities are appearing at the concert, even though they don't support or even know anything about the candidate, which you already pointed out.
And
Uh,
which happens today too.
yeah, I mean, they just show they just want to be associated with someone who's famous, so they show up. And there's one scene where they're asked to appear, and one of the characters in the band says, "We can't do this. We're Democrats," but
Yeah.
they end up on the stage anyway. We see an America that's obsessed with celebrity. Almost everyone wants to be famous or to be near famous people, and they'll do anything to achieve that. Altman also seems to be commenting on a culture where people are trying hard to make a connection. These characters are weaving in and out of each other's lives. Fathers aren't connecting with sons, husbands and wives aren't on the same page, performers aren't loyal to each other. There's joyless sex. I mean, it's a it's kind of a sad world in which, people aren't just not they're not connecting with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's all right. The only thing, as I said, sort of in my dislike section, that I'm not sure of is I don't think if he was trying to have politics be the undercurrent
Yeah,
of all this, I don't think it succeeded in that regard. I think it succeeded very much in all those other um, poxes on our house that we've mentioned, celebrity, fame, greed, etc.
right,
But I sort of like, again, it's my commentary, my quasi criticism of shampoo.
right. I agree with you again. It's not a very sophisticated political commentary. It's very easy to say politics is celebrity and all that kind of thing. Um, but and that's true, but obvious. But I agree with also that it's a great commentary on American culture in general.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the actors. So there are 24 featured actors and a dozen others with small parts. We can't go through all of them. So we've decided that each of us are going to pick three we want to talk about. Why don't you go do one, I'll do one, you do one, and I'll do one.
Okay. Well,
What's your
I
first?
I I actually think of this more in terms of the characters that stood out
Sure.
rather than necessarily the actors.
Okay.
I thought the Haven Hamilton character by Henry Gibson really stood out. He was maybe the closest thing to the film's lead actor in a film that didn't really have a lead actor. He played the old school country crooner so perfectly. He had three different color shades of hair on his head. He somehow managed to have both a bad toupee and a comb over on the same head. It was pretty impressive. The gaudy sequin shirts, the nice guy on stage, but the jerk in the recording studio, a wheeler dealer sniffing out a career in politics, but in the end, sort of redeemed by being genuinely traumatized as a kind of father figure, helping Barbara Jean when she got shot, not running in fear like he could have. So I really liked him.
Yeah, and of course he was played by Henry Gibson, who
Yeah.
played sweet and somewhat dim characters on Laugh-In, one of our
Yeah.
favorite
So,
shows.
so I never thought of Henry Gibson as being able to attain this kind of,
Right, right.
interesting character.
A very good actor. My favorite performance is also by someone who was on Laugh-In. That's Lily Tomlin. She plays Leanna Reese, a housewife, mother of two deaf children, and a gospel singer in the Black Choir. Her essential goodness is on display when she's shown talking to her children in sign language, which contrasts with her husband, who's never even learned how to sign with his kids. She's about the only normal character in the movie and the only one who truly connects with people. So I would vote for her.
Oh, uh-oh.
Uh-oh,
because
what?
in my notes, I made a few notes after picking my three.
Okay.
She underwhelmed me.
Okay.
I can't understand why she got the nod for. I
Okay.
know she was big at the time, but she got nominated for the Oscar. I love Lily Tomlin. It just was underwhelming to me. Although
Okay.
there were some funny bits. I mean, and there again, there's commentary and poking fun at packed into every scene. But the song she was trying to get her deaf children to sing was one of the corny Carpenter songs. Sing a song. I mean, so there were little jabs coming everywhere, few and far between.
All right. What?
Anyway,
All right. So who's your second number two?
Ronnie Blakely as
Yeah.
Barbara Jean,
Yeah.
in part because I like Loretta Lynn so much,
Yeah.
and she was kind of modeled on Loretta Lynn. And if you read Loretta's book, and of course see the movie, there's some truth into into the way she's portrayed here. I don't think she was quite as much of a mess in real life as she was in this movie, but I really liked her. She got to do one of the few dramatic scenes in the movie in the hospital with her loving but controlling husband.
Yeah.
One of the few sort of extended dramatic interludes. So I liked her a lot.
All right. I'm going to call out Michael Murphy, who played Joe Triplett, the sleazy campaign operative who's trying to recruit the singers to the Walker for President concert. Uh, poor Michael Murphy has played a lot of dubious characters. He was Woody Allen's best friend in Manhattan, who stole Diane Keaton away from Woody, as well as the cheating husband in An Unmarried Woman, who sobbed like a little girl when he confessed to Jill Clayburgh that he wanted a divorce. He also played the main character in Tanner 88, a satirical HBO show on the 1988 election, in which he played a congressman running for president, which I tried to find on HBO or anywhere, and it's like completely disappeared. In the movie, he's cynical, manipulative, and like most political operatives, and secretly condescending to the people he's interacting with, just as you'd expect. And nothing has changed in 50 years.
Right. I really liked him. He wasn't among my top three, but I thought he was perfectly cast and did the role really well. And
Yeah.
like I said, one of the two villains,
Yeah.
true villains in the movie. My third is Opal
Yeah.
by Geraldine Chaplin, who supposedly was from the BBC to do a documentary. I thought she was just hilarious. I thought her very presence and the way she acted and things she said was a commentary on just how hard it is to come in from the outside and figure out what a place like Nashville or a place like Middle America, how they really tick. And of course, the same could be said about someone coming from Hollywood and understanding how Middle America and Nashville really tick. But she just had so many good bits and lines, and you had to be a real actor to be in this movie. I don't think anyone was really bad. And Geraldine Chaplin revealed after the movie that they were basically all told by Altman to throw away their scripts and improvise. So you
Yeah.
had to have you had to have some acting chops.
So I will say that I did actually read the original screenplay by Joan Tewksbury, and it's only about half of it is maybe left, maybe not left. And Geraldine Chaplin in particular improvised most of her crazy lines. I mean, she said the most outrageous things, and it's a funny thing is that she's our audience stand-in, the outsider who comes in and is commenting on stuff. But I don't think even we would be as dense as she is.
She was great because she comes from a very good pedigree. She
I
said
was going to say, yes, she's
it.
Charlie Chaplin's daughter,
Yeah,
and the mother is Una O'Neill, who is Eugene O'Neill's daughter. So she's
yeah,
Eugene O'Neill's granddaughter, and she's still making movies. I saw her
yeah,
in Jurassic Park a few years ago. So to me, it's amazing that Charlie Chaplin's daughter is still appearing in movies.
yeah. I think I read that he was like 55 or something
Yeah, I mean,
when she
and
was
she was
born.
18. I mean,
He had a gazillion kids, and
he's a scandal. I mean,
you know,
of course, he was a scamp.
Yeah. Don't you have a third one coming? Was
Yeah,
that?
I'm gonna take a vote for Keith Carradine, uh, only because
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Go
he's a
ahead.
real 1970s sex symbol, kind of scrawny with a scraggly beard. I don't think he'd turn many heads in the 2020s, and yet in Nashville, everyone wants to go to bed with him. And he's actually a sad guy if you think about it. His sexual conquests obviously don't bring him any joy, only a burden, because once he sleeps with a woman, she wants to be with him and he couldn't care less. At the same time, I guess we're supposed to believe that he can't bear to be alone since he's so desperate to have Lily Tomlin stay with him after they did the deed. Uh, but when he sings "I'm Easy," I believe him and I think he's sincere, but I think he's just damaged goods.
Yeah, I thought he came across as bland to me, but maybe he was supposed to be diffident as a character. So
Yeah.
maybe that makes sense. Um, but he did a good song. By the way, we talked about crossover. To me, that was a total folk song, not a country song. But whatever, it's a good song.
Yeah, well, that the band they're in is supposed to be a rock band, right?
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
in a trio, and they're specifically not supposed to be a country music band,
Well,
but
Peter, Paul, and Mary, they were supposed to be.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, so folkies.
yeah.
Well, just a couple other quick notes.
Okay,
I was underwhelmed by Karen Black. By the way, all of this might have nothing to do with the actors because there's 24 actors
you're right,
to
right.
get in. But I'm just talking about my reactions. Um, I thought the assassin was very well cast, perfectly well cast, precisely because he was a nothing.
Yeah,
He faded into the woodwork. He was bland. He was gawky. He was unattractive. So I thought that was a well chosen character for that part.
and he was a
And we have,
loser. He's a complete
yeah,
loser. I mean,
right,
he had a bad relationship with his mother. He was talking to her on the
right.
phone, and then he hangs up the phone and says, "Thank you, mom. I love you too," and all that. I mean, he pretends that he's still talking so the people around him can think that he's having a loving relationship with his mother, but it's fictitious.
Yeah, I caught that connection too. He obviously had big mommy issues.
Yeah,
And then when he went to the rally, instead of waiting for the politician, he shoots the singer as she's singing about her affection for her mother and father.
exactly. Mommy and
So,
daddy.
yeah. And we have to shout out Keenan Wynn
Uh-huh.
as Mr. Green, who played a few years later in one of his last roles, played Digger Barnes on Dallas. And Dallas actually, this was sort of forecasting Dallas, which Dallas did a lot to turbocharge the country and Western style in the 1980s, the music, the clothes, etc.
Okay.
I thought he did a good job.
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, well, let's talk about the music for a second. Music is an integral part of the movie, and most of the songs are written by the performers themselves, which I find hard to believe, but apparently it's true. So we're going to do the same thing. There's like 14 songs. Let's each pick two favorite songs. So, what's your favorite song?
Well, my favorite are easy to dispense with, the opening and the closing songs. I'm talking as songs. I
Yeah.
liked the 200 Years
Okay.
song because it was so corny, but I liked it. I like that kind of corn. It's
So the
like God
200
bless you.
years represents the 200
About to
anniversary
have
of
right,
the bicentennial,
right.
which is now we're 250 years. Could sing the same song.
Yeah, co-written by Henry Gibson.
Yeah.
And I liked it Don't Worry Me, which was co-written by Keith Carradine and Barbara Harris, who sang it.
Yeah.
Again, as a song. I just
Yeah. Yeah.
liked it. I thought it was inspirational. Those were mine.
Okay. Well, I've always loved the Keith Carradine song that won the Academy Award, I'm Easy. Whenever I write a playlist of favorite songs, I include it. It's one of the great songs about surrendering to love and being completely vulnerable and honest. So, I'm just crazy about that song.
Yeah, good
And
song.
and I love, love, love the two Barbara Jean songs, My Idaho Home, written by Ronnie Blakely, who plays Barbara Jean, a song of love and appreciation for her parents, filled with a lot of specific details about her childhood and the ways her parents loved her. I also really love a tape deck in his tractor, as written by Ronnie Blakely. A straightforward celebration and love for a real countryman. He drives a tractor, fishes for bass, goes dancing, rides a bronc at the rodeo, sings a love song to his sweetheart while holding her in a rocking chair. I mean, kind of like
Toxic masculinity.
I'd like to get one of them for myself. So instead of discussing how accurate this movie is to its time, let's take a look at how politically realistic this is. Does it seem to reflect the politics of 1975 as you remember it, or is it the usual Hollywood fever dream?
I thought it was a little behind its time and ahead of its time when it comes to politics.
Hmm?
There wasn't any real, there was a disgust with what was happening with Watergate and all that, but there wasn't a particular disgust or revolt from the two-party system, a readiness to chuck both the Democrats and the Republicans in 1975. Um, that didn't happen then.
No, but it happened
Um,
in 1968.
that's my point. It was a
Okay.
little behind the times
Well,
because it did happen in 68 and it happened in 92.
right.
So it was ahead of its time in that regard, but there was not a lot of people saying, "Oh, I hate both Dems and Republicans." Um, and it's interesting in Tennessee in 1968, because this did take place. I was trying to make political commentary about Nashville. In 1968, um, Nixon barely beat Wallace. Wallace came in a strong second, and Humphrey, the Democrat, was far behind third. So again, it was kind of, there was an opening in Nashville and in Tennessee for people's dalliance with a third party, but a few years earlier than that. And then in 1992, of course, a lot of people were ready to chuck both parties. And then in the Trump revolt, Trump was simply smart enough to do a third party under the guise of one of the two existing parties. But it really was basically a third party movement. So that's sort of how I look at the politics. Not very sophisticated on the part of Altman.
Well, I don't think the third party thing is because there was a third party candidate in 1980 as well, which was only 5 years in the future, which is John Anderson, a completely different kind of republic, a different kind of third party, not populist at all. In fact, it was elite candidate. So third parties happen quite frequently in American politics. But I felt the underlying sense of disillusionment was kind of accurate. I mean, we talked earlier about all the reasons for being disillusioned in those years.
Mm-hmm.
And you've also got a sense of people being culturally divided. You've got Hamilton Haven telling his drummer to get a haircut, and then you've got the David Carradine character sidling up to the soldier and saying, "Did you kill anyone today in Vietnam?" You know, this kind of nastiness that people were to each other, was very present back in those days. So I thought that was all right.
Yeah, yeah,
It was accurate. I was going to say, you kind of mentioned this earlier, that he's a populist who complains about the lawyers in Congress, but also says today in America, with its unmatched resources, it's exceedingly ridiculous, a total absurdity that any citizen with any ailment, mental or physical, should go medically unattended. So this is a left wing line. He doesn't fit into any category, and you've already pointed that out. And I just wanted to emphasize that I thought that it does prefigure what Ross Perot is going to be.
yeah, yeah. I think so. Well, I just again, I the reason why I'm not blathering on like I usually do in this question of the politics goes back to what I was saying earlier. I just don't think it was as political, successfully driving home political themes as maybe Altman hoped. In the same way that I criticized Beatty and Shampoo. I
Right.
think people were more interested in their personal local politics, their sexual politics, the show business politics, financial politics, power and relationship games with each other. I think they were sort of oblivious, except you had that loudspeaker blaring, annoyingly blaring through the streets of Nashville and all of the events, all film long. And guess what? Just like in Shampoo, people were ignoring that stuff.
Well, that was probably the point that he was trying to make.
Yeah, that's my point.
He was saying that people were not interested in politics, and I don't buy that. I think people were interested back then, and they're super interested now. I'll also note, just out of which he couldn't have predicted, that this sense of disillusionment did sort of dissipate for a period during the actual bicentennial. As you remember,
Yeah.
1976 was a joyous time, and we all kind of felt very patriotic. And there was this wave of good feeling that came over the country to the extent that Gerald Ford almost won re-election that year.
Hmm.
And then Jimmy Carter got elected, and down we went again. So the late 70s were also a period of really great disillusionment. All right, let's talk about favorite scenes. There are 6 or 7 great songs in the movie, and the sequences which they performed are my top 6 or 7 scenes. But I'm not going to get into that. So what do you have? You have some scenes?
Well, I did like the opening scene in the recording studio that
Hmm.
played over the opening credits. And the opening credits played like a schlocky TV commercial for some quick compilation album of hits. It was really funny. Those really annoying, lengthy
Yeah.
commercials we saw on TV, usually late night TV or daytime TV all the time. But I liked Henry Gibson shifting between intoning with all his pieties about America, but then stopping the takes to complain nastily about the piano player and his haircut. And then each new take got progressively worse, which recording artists and actors will tell you can happen. That the first take was the best kind of syndrome. So I like that scene.
All right. Tom, the singer played by Keith Carradine, becomes obsessed with Lily Tomlin. And although he could have almost any woman, he wants her. She's a middle-aged housewife.
Yeah.
Usually I don't endorse a wife cheating on her husband, but she's touched by that song, "I'm Easy," that he sings to her in the club. And she has her little fling, but after blowing off some steam, she has no trouble putting him in his place and leaving, even though he wants her to stay. So for once, the woman has the upper hand as she blithely strolls out of his bedroom, completely unconcerned that he's called and asked another woman to come over. I thought that scene was very interesting.
Yeah. I love the multi-car pile-up scene
Okay.
on the freeway. It became like a tailgate party at a ball game with everybody's car had smashed together. Everyone was delayed from where they were going. People weren't so much worried about who got hurt. They were sort of going on with their conversation, their business, and and then Opal, the British Looney Tunes character, said, "It's America, all these cars smashing together." But then life went on, and the loudspeaker with the politician was still blaring. And I thought, oh, that was a good metaphor for America in 1975.
I
It was
think
a
that's what he
car,
was. Yeah.
it was a car wreck, but life went on. And I would say to him, with all respect, the director, it was also a good metaphor for the film and Altman's filmmaking process. It was a multi-car pileup, but you had to watch because it was
Okay.
like we rubberneck.
So I liked the montage of Sunday morning church scenes showing the different
Yes,
ways that people use music to augment their worship.
I like
There's the
that.
raucous black choir, the stiff and proper church with boring white music, and the gentle scene at the hospital chapel where Barbara Jean sings in the garden without any accompaniment. It was a really beautiful moment there. So that was fun to
Yeah,
watch that.
I like that too. And I like the Grand Old Opry, the indoor Grand Old Opry scene, because you had a lot going on. You had three different performers, all had different country styles of singing. Um, The show was punctuated by really cheesy ads for Goo Goo candy bars
Right,
because this show is being broadcast over a bunch of radio stations.
right.
And you had side comments by the villainous political operative. And did you notice that all the special guests were sitting in church pews that he
Yeah,
brought into the Opry? So, I mean, you just have lots of the themes of the movie
yeah.
playing out fleetingly in that scene.
It was funny when Geraldine Chaplin and the ditzy Opal wandering the junkyard, and she
Yeah,
purposely tries to make meaning out of this discarded cars and buses. I mean, she just comes up with one stupid line after another, and that was just very
like
funny.
an elephant's graveyard.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was good. And I already mentioned this, but I like the one of the few sort of extended dramatic expository scenes when with the Loretta Lynn and Mooney Lynn character in her hospital room,
yeah.
having a tense back and forth. And again, I liked all the attention to detail, for sure enough, stacked up on the table in the hospital room were a bunch of Kentucky Fried Chicken boxes. Movie was filled with little touches like that.
Right, right. Okay. Favorite line.
I already mentioned all the cars. It's America, all the cars are smashed together
Yeah.
line. And I liked Opal's line commenting or praising the black gospel singers. You can tell it's come down from the genes
Oh yeah. Well, I'm gonna do that.
because
So I wrote down the whole thing.
okay,
So
go for it.
all right. So let's see. She says she's talking to Bud, who's Bud Hamilton, the son of David Hamilton, and she says she looks in and she sees Lily Tomlin, the missionary, and she says, I was making a documentary in Kenya, and there was this marvelous woman who was a missionary. That's why I thought she was a missionary, and she was sensational. She was converting Kikuyus by the dozens, and she was trying to convert Maasais. Of course, they were hopeless. I mean, they have their own sort of religion, I think. Look at that. That rhythm is fantastic. You know, it's funny. You can tell it's come down in the genes through ages and ages and hundreds of years, but it's there. Take off those robes, and one is in darkest Africa. They can just see their naked, frenzied bodies dancing to the beat. Do they carry on like that at church? And then Bud says, it depends on which church you go to.
No more lectures from the British about race. Thank you very much. You already mentioned this line, but I'll point it out again because it was a realistic line. When Carradine said to Scott Glenn, who plays the military man, "How are you doing, Sarge? Kill anyone this week?"
Yeah.
That's true to life.
Oh, yeah.
That's really how Vietnam vets were treated in many occasions when they came home.
Connie White, the country singer played by Karen Black, she meets the real life Julie Christie, and
Yeah.
she doesn't believe she's a movie star, never mind an Oscar winner. And she says, oh, come on, she can't even comb her hair. Uh, and this is just after someone has said, I was just talking about the new Christie minstrels. So,
That's so fun. That's hilarious. And by the way, Julie Christie was beautiful in that cameo.
oh, of course she was. I
Absolutely
mean,
beautiful.
and she's got that hair that's
And the
all
glow in her
glowing,
skin.
and the
Yeah,
hair is all. But you're right, she doesn't have the hair that Nashville has, which is straight
right,
and blown dried. It's like wet and curly and all over the place. So yeah,
right. I did like we haven't talked about her, but Barbara Bailey, who played the drunk Lady Pearl,
yeah, okay,
um, and she had a whole riff about how much she loved the Kennedys.
all right.
She knew the exact vote totals from the 1960 election in in Tennessee. And then at one point, and the line is, at one point she talked about Jack, and then she said, and Bobby, he was a beautiful man too. Not at all like John, though, like puny.
Yeah, I had that down as one of my favorite lines too. You
The
know, it's
whole
funny. It's
riff, her whole riff was funny.
yeah, that whole thing. You know,
Hmm.
right. Oh, one more. I got one more. When Joe Triplett, the sleazy campaign manager, he's talking to Bill, who's in the rock trio that's in town to record an album, and he's trying to get him to be on the concert. He says, "I've got a problem, but I think it will work to your advantage. As you know, this redneck music is very popular right now. It's got an awful lot of these local yokels on the bill, singing country crapola. So I think what I'm going for is broader appeal. I want to get more than just the Southern, and I think you could really hit. I think you'd really hit. A group like yours could walk off with the evening. I mean, it's just so incredibly condescending."
I know. And so incredibly true to the present day.
Yes. So, how do you think this movie is relevant to politics and society today?
And we've touched on most of it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it predicted things like all these shootings. The two attempts on Gerald Ford hadn't happened yet when this movie was shot, but they would soon. John Lennon, Ronald Reagan, the two Trump attempts, Charlie Kirk, people killing people for politics, even if whether they're deranged or not. Violence is part of our politics. Also, the general dissatisfaction with the two-party system. I think it forecast more of that. And the hunger for fame, celebrity, obsession with all that is even stronger than today. It's just moved to different formats. The desire for clicks, the desire for views on YouTube and TikTok. Some things never change, they just get more extreme.
Yeah, amen to all of that. If anything, the relationship between politics and showmanship, celebrity, and populism has gotten worse, as has the propensity to violence. So, yes, this movie is definitely relevant. If you were a high school teacher, would you assign this movie?
I'd like to, but you'd have to take out the N word,
Yeah.
which could be easily done. But other than that, I don't see a lot of it's rated R, but I don't see a lot of really, really terrible stuff. I suppose you'd have to blot out the whole bedroom scene with Keith Carradine, but I'd like to, but no. Final analysis, no.
Yeah, I think it's a important historical document, but it's not obvious what a high school class would get out of it. You'd have to be very sophisticated
Yeah.
to so I would say it's just not right for high school.
And you have to be studying the 70s
Yeah.
because so much of the pop culture and the way you ingest pop culture then to now is different worlds, different universes for the young people.
So let's grade the movie.
A grade of A. It's a very impressive achievement while also being funny and entertaining. I'd recommend it to anyone, even if you're not a country music fan. It's funny, it's telling, it takes us down a few notches, but it uses the scalpel of humor and satire rather than the meat axe of hate and blowhard moralism and condescension. So grade of A. I don't give that very often.
I'm actually quite happy to hear that. I'd give it an A as well. I mean, it's still one, but as a political commentary, I'd give it a B plus. It shows all the cynicism of politics, but none of the idealism. So, it's not quite the. I mean, we've already said this number of times that it's not the political commentary it thinks it is, but I still think it's a great.
Right.
And I'd also give it an A.
Good. I'm glad we agree now. If only I can get you to change your grade on JFK to A like I had. I don't think that's going to happen in this lifetime.
I don't think it's going to happen in this lifetime either. All right, so we're wrapping up here. Any final commentary?
No.
Okay, good. Well, not good, but thank you. Or whatever.
Thanks for making me watch.
So in closing, I'm just going to say again, the podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and most podcast platforms. You can subscribe there. I hope you do, so I don't have to send it out to all my friends and email them directly. If you have comments, you can email them to me at garyholmes76@gmail. We're going to move away from 1976 into not that much further from 1976, in the late 70s and the 80s. Our next movie is going to be The Iron Lady, about Margaret Thatcher, that neither of us have seen. You haven't seen it, right?
I have seen it.
Oh, you have seen it. Okay. All right. So I haven't seen it.
You're going to like it.
Okay. We got a Ronald Reagan sighting in there. So we have a real life president to talk about instead of just
That's
these
right.
imaginary ones. So we'll see you next time. Bye bye, Jim.
Take care.